I think that one of the biggest tools that you can give is to teach about death and loss. Prepare them for the loss because, like we talked about earlier, all of us are kind of preparing as we go through life. But because of this protection thing we do, maybe we're doing a disservice and not teaching them how to do that. Use simple words. Make sure that they are words they understand and concrete if possible. Don't get too complicated with, it's a complex thing, sort of, but not, because we all go through it. So teach by example with the pets. Maybe if there's a news story about somebody who died, you can talk about that. A famous person died, use that as a teaching tool. It's kind of all around us. We just have to be willing to look at it and use it to teach the concept. Use lots of examples and do this over time. So you're taking a walk and there's a dead bird on the sidewalk. Opportunity to teach. As opposed to, I don't want them to see the dead bird. I don't want them to be sad. Opportunity to teach. So, and keep doing it over time. It's okay for them to see you grieve, and hopefully it's not a really big loss that you're going through, because that's hard. But the small losses that maybe you've experienced, my next loss that I'm going to experience that I know of is my high school senior is going to go to college. Great thing to talk about, to teach. Oh, I'm so sad. One of my children is leaving my home, and so use those life experiences that you're having. Show them that it's part of life. Show them that you're going to be okay. Encourage questions. It's okay to ask, no dumb question. And they'll ask the question many times, probably. But you can even say, so do you have any questions about that dead bird or what I just told you about death? It's okay to ask. I'm assuming, we're talking about somebody who has the verbal ability to ask the questions. Talk about the stages of life. Birth, childhood, adulthood, and old age and death. Talk about it. This is normal. And you can do it through pets. You can do it through people. Just the cycle is part of life. Talk about unexpected death too, or illness that leads to death, or accidents. These are things we don't like talking about. We don't like talking about them with anybody, because it almost feels taboo. So, but you have to, in order to, if your goal is to prepare them and teach, you have to do the hard stuff too. So talk about the hard stuff. And then have them participate, if possible, in their estate planning. And if their parents are at the process of trying to figure out, what am I going to do for my child when I am gone, have them be a part of that process if they can. Then if they have questions, or they hear you ask, or they hear their parents ask questions of somebody who's helping with that, they can get an idea that I'm going to be okay. These things are going to be in place. In this estate planning kind of concept and idea, you might want to, if you're keeping in mind, stay concrete. Have them, if they're living with their parents, for example, what do you want to take from this home when you go to live in the other home? Kind of like, you get to keep some things. You get to have some mementos. You get to have some objects that are comforting or mean something to you. And let's pick them now, and then when that happens, you'll know you get to take that with you. And so Again, really hard to do, but it could be invaluable for their grieving process and the morning tasks. We're going to talk about how to help now. And these are the specifics. So keep them in the loop. We talked about that. As the family sharing information, and we have somebody who's dying in our family, keep them in the loop. Let them know what's going on. Take them to the hospital. Let them see the person. It's a teaching moment again. Teach them through life lessons with the pet. I'm kind of reviewing here. A friend moving away, talk about how did that feel? How did you cope with that? What did you do that made you feel better? The death of a famous person, you can use that. It's a little less emotional. A plant, I like that idea. Educate them about what to expect once the person has died. Talk about funerals. If there's going to be a viewing, tell them what that is. Maybe take them before everybody gets there so they can experience it without all the emotion, because they'll pick up on the emotion in the room, and that might be overwhelming in itself. So prepare them. People are going to cry. People will be sad. And maybe even, it's nothing you did. This is just, what you can expect. Prepare them for the burial if that's what's happening. Let them be involved in that. But on the flip side, if they don't want to do this, honor that too. Don't force it because I'm telling you this is good for them. Because if they really don't want to do it, you need to honor that. So encourage them to pray if that's where their spiritual beliefs are and their religions. Again, allow them to visit the sick and dying. That's the prep time. That's the pre-grieving that I talked about. And don't force it. If they don't want to be there, that's okay too. And that's going to be a little hard sometimes to figure out with the communication, but I think that ask family members, talk to family members, find out what they think this means. Should we have them go or not? Work as a team. I mean, you're definitely a huge piece of this team to make sure that it goes as well as possible. So include. That's the message here. And in that process of including, make sure you're keeping it simple. Be honest. No sugarcoating and no making up fairy tales. Like, tell them what's happening. Tell them what to expect. Encourage them to express their feelings. So, and if they have words, that's going to be easier. If they don't, we're going to talk about that too. But we know that expressing grief diminishes grief. So when you get to experience the pain, it makes it better. So that's what your task number 2. That's what you're trying to do here. Help them express it and feel it. So this is how to facilitate it. And I kind of am taking the approach of group homes and the people who might be the ones who have to tell somebody that their loved one died. Practice it. I know the first time I told somebody that their loved one had died, I didn't do a very good job. I think I started crying and couldn't get all the words out because I'm an empathetic person. So practice it. Make sure those words come out. Make sure that they're not seeing just the feelings or the, wow, she seems scared. Maybe I should be scared. But practice it, rehearse it. Make sure you're ready to do it. It's a big, important job. Make sure you're ready for it. And as an agency, make sure everybody who has contact with this individual knows that there's been a loss. I think that, I forget your name, but the classroom experience that you had and everything that was in place that you didn't even realize was in place, mm-hmm. that needs to be in place for all the agencies too. Right. Because won't that help when you're faced with this and you just know, okay, this is what we do. So if that's not in place at your agencies, figure out how to get it in place. And if it is in place, find out how it works if you don't know already. Another very helpful thing is get a clear picture of what this person has been through in their lifetime. Find out how much loss they've been. Is this their second parent that they've lost? Have they been in 5 different homes and now they're coming to yours? See if you can get some data to find out how much experience they have with this, if there's potential for unresolved loss, because we know that people are more likely to say, let's go do something fun. We don't want to talk about that. So there's maybe coming to you with unresolved loss. So I'm not sure where you get that data, but I love the letter of intent. Oh, that's great. Maybe they should add that to it, you know? And by the way, this is what they've been through. I don't know if that's where you would put it in your documents, but have it go with them if that's a possibility. Mm-hmm. So then provide them with a safe place to grieve, a caring, comfortable place where they feel that they can trust the people who are there. And I want to go back to when you tell them about the loss, make sure you do it in a place that they feel comfortable and safe. It's not like a foreign place, you know. Maybe there's a activity room that's got a quiet time, and you can, hey, let's go talk, and then you have some activities available to you, and be prepared for this may be a process to explain what's going on. But make sure that it feels okay. It's not a scary place. It's not a room they've never been in before. It's not. You're not sitting behind a desk telling them, and they've never seen you behind a desk before, that kind of thing. Always let them have photos. Encourage them to have photos of their loved ones. Put them up on their bedroom, wall, on their door, wherever they want. This is normal grieving behavior. We want to see them, and that's okay. It may feel like it's going to prolong it for them because they go to that sad place, but it really is a healthier place than just gone. Provide activities to help them. So the memorial, put the ways to stay connected positively with their special person, but in the healthy way of they're gone. And we're going to talk about that specifically. I think it's, I wanted to say this first. Repeat. Repetition, repetition, repetition. They're going to forget, potentially, what you taught them. They're going to require more explanations in order to fully grasp. Death is a kind of an odd concept, and it takes a while. It takes us all through our childhood to really fully understand it. So they're going to need repetition and review, and they're going to probably ask a lot of the same questions over and over. They might retell stories, and I think your client who's pre-grieving her grandma is maybe doing that when she says grandma's going to die. So retell the stories of trauma event. It's really normal and it's healthy when you've had a trauma to tell the story. It's part of our healing process as human beings. And there's all kinds of studies that show that children who've been through trauma actually play that trauma act over and over and over again. You'll see them in play, the same trauma act played over and over again. So we know that this is just natural and normal, and it's how we get through it. As a play therapist, what you ultimately see is the ending of the play changes to a not traumatic one, and then you know they've gotten through it. So let them talk about it, let them revisit it. They're going to have searching behaviors. Maybe you take them to the cemetery. Maybe you take them to the place that was special that they used to go to with this person. Actively help with that process. And some of it might be guesswork because you're not sure what they need. But again, nothing is more painful than death. So you can't do this wrong. So role-playing, if they have that ability to do that, art activities, teaching moments about the cycle of life, all of that can be helpful. You can do it over and over because they will require that repetition. And just to really make sure you got this, we need to plan on repetition. Over and over. And it gets a little hard as the person on the receiving end, but they need it, and you just need to be patient with this process. Okay, specific tools and interventions. I think you've been waiting for this. And I'm probably not going to tell you anything you don't already know. I'm going to say that right up front. You've probably done all of these things. But keep in mind, everything that you're doing, because you're trying to help somebody process a loss, you need to encourage expression of feelings and memories, because that's how we get through the tasks of mourning. So, with that said, actively seek non-verbal rituals. Rituals is how we come to accept our loss. And so, tree planting, gardening, can be a nonverbal way of showing respect to the loved one. We're going to plant a tree, and you can come visit this tree when you want to think about your grandma, when you want to think about your dog, or gardening. Grandma always gardened. How about we go garden? Every time we garden, you can think about your grandma who's died. So it allows for the nonverbal kind of act, which hopefully will help them process. Art activities, I know that this goes on all the time. So drawing, crafting, modeling with clay, painting, making collages that symbolizes, let's make a collage of things that your brother liked to do. Scrapbooking pictures of their family members or their care provider who they had for 20 years. And the piece that will make this not just the everyday activities that happen in the homes is that you're going to be talking about it tied to the loss. And some words you should add to this are, this will help us feel better. It's going to be okay. Because when you're in that pain, it doesn't feel like it's going to be okay. So you're going to use those words repeatedly. We're going to be okay. Let's do this. This will help us feel better. Story activities. There are some books out there. They are children's books, so really you have to look at who you're talking to, if it's appropriate or not. But reading books out loud. Lifetimes by Melanie and Ingpen is a book that talks about the life cycle. It talks about everything has a beginning, everything has an end, and there's all this in the middle. And it has these beautiful illustrations. It's simple, and it's very repetitive. So, and then some other ones I looked up, which I have not seen. It Must Hurt a Lot, but it was specifically about a child who had lost somebody to death. And The Dead Bird. That's probably why I talked about the dead bird when I gave my example. So, now sometimes words if you're working with somebody who doesn't have that communication ability, written words aren't going to be helpful. There's a author who has several books called Beyond Words, and she has one called When Somebody Dies. When Mom Dies, it's from the UK. When Dad Dies. It's her name is Sheila Hollins. Actually, it's multiple authors, and Sandra Dowling. And what these are is they're not books, they're cards. So they look like this. There's a card with a picture. I don't know if you can see it. This woman is holding a portrait, like in a frame, to her chest, and she's crying. And so what you would do in this activity is you would have these cards, and maybe you could make up a story that is tied to their real life experience, or if they have the verbal ability, they could talk to you about, what do you see in this picture? I see a lady crying, she's sad. And then you could say, sometimes you're sad, kind of that kind of approach. And I'll just show you a few more pictures. There's two people together, so maybe you can talk about how we come together to help each other through this. They're making a photo album together. Again, reinforce this could help us feel better. This is what people do to feel better. And then this last picture or card is she's taking flowers to the grave. And then memorials, the desk idea, making a memory book, a photo album, a memory box where they keep special mementos or something the person gave to them or that they want to keep close. An ornament, letters or poems that they like to be read to them, and then songs and special objects that you can kind of reinforce when you're feeling that you miss your care provider. Here's the teddy bear that looks like him. Look at I don't know, but have it, find a way to attach it for them, and then they can get comfort in that. Okay, I said what not to do. Now this is a review. What to do. Provide a safe place. Encourage them to ask questions. Encourage them to mourn. Allow them to mourn. Look for the question behind the question. Does that make sense? Has anybody had that experience? Use teachable moments throughout the year, reinforcement, repetition, find times to bring it up. Now you're all going to go back and that's all you're ever going to be doing, right? So it always happens to me when I go to some, I'm going to use this. And that's all I see and that's all I do. So don't do that. Pick and choose the moments. Make sure it's appropriate. Draw from your own experiences. If they can see that you're okay, and that you've been through something like this, it's going to make them feel more comfortable that they're going to be okay too. Routines are helpful because they provide security and predictability. So if at all possible, keep the routines the same. And I think about that little girl who said, I'm going to go have breakfast now.
That's exactly what that was.
Yeah. That was safe, it was predictable, I know how to do this. I don't really know how to do this other thing that's happened. I can't say this enough. Encourage them to express their feelings, their reactions, however they can, whatever works for them. It is probably not going to be how you do it. Talk to them directly, validating their sadness and pain. Talk about sad, talk about hurt, talk about lonely. Use those words. Let them know you feel it too, or you have felt it. Be that role model for them to know that if you cry, you cry. Then they're not crying alone. You can look at it that way too. I mean, we're always so afraid to not be strong for those who we know need us. So it takes time to heal for all of us. And with people with intellectual disabilities, they might have a really strong grief reaction, And it could be really delayed, not just a couple weeks. It could be years delayed. And I think Beth gave a really good example of that. We don't know what triggered it for him, but it was a delayed grief response, Matt's was. And so, is it that he never resolved it? Is it that something happened that reminded him? Was it the dream that, who knows? Because of the need for repetition, because of the they don't have one of the tools that we all use is talking, finding people who get us, sharing back. Well, that's part of how we often get through this, but if they don't have the communication ability, it's going to delay the process, there's no question. I already mentioned triggered, but I didn't talk about things. Typically, grief is triggered by anniversaries, by birthdays, by Christmases or holidays, by times when, geez, usually my whole family's here, but where's mom? Or, that's normal. And so it's going to happen to your clients as well. And so it's an opportunity to teach. It's an opportunity to validate. Wow, this is a sad day. This was your mom's birthday? Yeah, that is a sad day that she's not here with you. What did you used to do with your mom on her birthday? Do you want to do that? Who knows? You can, but do what you can to validate, to let them know that it's normal to be sad. It makes sense, and it is part of the process. So these are some books that you can read if you want. In searching for reading materials, this is all I found as far as books. So this is very understood. This is very needed, what you're here for today. But there's good in all of these books. So I'm picturing you're trying to help your client, let's say, and they've had a loss, and their family or their other providers are grieving as well. Somehow it falls on your shoulders to be the person to facilitate this. You better find out what to expect. You better find out what they're going to do as far as the rituals are concerned, because you might need to explain about scattering ashes. You might need to explain about them being buried in the ground. So get as much information as you can without obviously stepping on the grieving toes, but that's the only way you're going to, the more knowledge you have, the more power you have to help. So, and you may just present it that way. Could I please ask you some questions? I'm trying to help Johnny get through this. Now it's Johnny for me too. I thought it was Joe earlier, now it's Johnny. So, and they will, I'm certain, be grateful that you're helping with that process, so they will do everything they can to facilitate that. So. Thank you.